by Design, and this is Throwback Thursday. This is a little series that I do every week where we kind of dig into our stash of retired papers or leftovers or old designs, and we make something new and fresh. So earlier this week, I shared a Graphic 45 Let It Be square tag mini album, and I had all the stuff all over my desk, and I was like, I do not feel like putting all of this away. So I took my scraps. So it's kind of fits the mold of Throwback Thursday. I took my scraps and leftover bits and bobs, and I pulled some old stuff out of my stash to make this Throwback Thursday. So this is a little trifold folio. I love slimline. And I started with, I had a, let me see, this was a leftover piece. I believe it was 12 inches long. Black cardstock, and it was just about 7 3/4 inches, it was almost 8. So it was kind of an odd shape, but I was like, I think this will work for a trifold. So I scored it at 4, and I scored it at 4 again, and then I scored it at 3, and that left me this little 1-inch flap, which I flipped over and turned into a side pocket. And I've decorated this all up. This tutorial isn't on how to put the guts of the card together. Some of you had asked me to share some ideas for creating collage style cards with you. So that's what we're going to focus on today. But very quickly, these were some old Melissa Francis black tag envelopes. And I just covered these with scraps of the designer paper and then added some little cut-aparts from the 8x8 in there. Topped it with some rickrack. So these are little pockets here. Kind of cute. I thought that was cute to have a double pocket page. And I'm going to tell you right up front so that you don't have to tell me in the comments. I wish when I started this, I had scored an extra 1/4 inch between. So if you do this trifold just to make your life easier, score at 4, 4 1/4, 8 1/4, 8 1/2, and then this pan will be a little skinnier, but you'll still be able to do the basic, but you'll be able to close your card better than I can. So in the middle, this is from the signature page of the 8x8, and it was short. It was a short piece. So I took another scrap and just made a little wee pocket, decorated it up with some stickers from the sticker sheet, and put this ephemera card, journal card in there. Over here on this 3-inch panel, I created a little pocket using one of my scraps, and y'all have seen me do pockets a million times. And I just added a border piece and a border sticker. And then I stitched up a quick little tag, decorated it up with a sticker, and added a bunch of stuff. This is why the card won't close. If I hadn't done this, the card would close a whole lot better. But this is a narrow pocket, so there's not a lot you can fit in there, and this tag fit. So there you go, people. Even in my studio, things happen sometimes. But anyway, so that's that. And then over here in this little side pocket, this was just another little scrap. This is, I don't even measure this stuff. I just pick it up off the table and I say, what can you be? So this is 2.5 inches by 8. So this was probably left from cutting something else up. Who knows? So I just put a sticker on the front here and a sticker on the inside, and you can write a little note in here. If you can make it fit, you could also tuck a tea bag in there, but I wasn't sure I could get the whole thing to close if I did that. So anyway, yeah. So, engineering difficulties. So then on the front, here's our front, and this is what we're going to work with to create this collage card. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this tag out so that my card will lay down flat and be easier to work on. And I just have a whole bunch of stuff. So before we get started, the whole idea of a collage card, and they are a great way to use up leftover bits and bobs. But the whole idea with a collage is to draw the eye into a specific spot. I see people who will sometimes do a collage card that's just putting a whole bunch of mess all over the place. It has to tell a story. It has to draw the eye. You want to put your elements in a shape, in a way that makes the eye move around so it can see all of the elements. So one of the best ways to do that is to kind of think of a triangle in the middle of your piece, because the eye will go from this point to this point to this point and back to this point, and you'll see everything. Another good tip is to make things touch. So in the little journal I made yesterday, we had cut out the doily, and this is the inside of the doily, so I'm going to use that piece. I had a little bit of my honeycomb from Renee Bouquet's left over, and we're going to put this down to start, and this is going to create a base. And this is just a random shape. This is just left over from cutting stuff yesterday. And then I just hit it with a little vintage, what is that, tea dye, distressed tea dye ink, and sprayed it with a little mica powder. And then I'm going to slip this circle in underneath. So automatically you can see we now have a triangle. See that? That created a triangle. So now we're going to build inside this triangle. I have some postage stamps, and I'm going to cut a couple of these out with my stamp scissors. And if you don't have stamp scissors, just cut it out with regular scissors. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to rough these up a little bit just to kind of distress them. Give them a little texture. Make them not look quite so perfect. Then I went into my stash and I found this rusty bottle cap. And those were all the rage for a while. Everybody was using bottle caps for everything. So I have all these bottle caps. I'm going to put some foam tape in here to fill in. And then I looked in my stash. I love clock images. So I had this clock that fits in there pretty well. So I'm going to put some hot glue on here. And I'm going to put my clock in. And hopefully that's going to stick really well. So then we're just building. The whole idea is you're building layers and pictures. So I have this Renee Bouquet's. This is the tiny beehive. And I put one layer of foam tape on that because we have to bridge the gap of this. So let's put that down. Now, do you see how I have the top of this touching our queen bee image? So now we've included this in, and the eye will see it. You have to, it's important to think about how the eye moves and how the eye travels. Now this is an old little birdie flower. Kind of got messed up. Let me see if and I may not use this. I may use it and I may not use it. It just depends. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to use that. If I was doing something different, I would have put this in here. It'd be like a flower, but I think it's too big. We'll leave it like that just for a minute. That's the other thing. You don't have to glue down until you're ready to commit. And that's a really good tip. So Another fun little thing, I had this little snippet of ribbon, and I've cut fishtail banners on the end. This was left over from making my project yesterday, or for Tutorial Tuesday. I'm going to put this beside my honeybee, and I just put some glue there and folded it over. And then let's see what we got. So I've got a whole bunch of little charms. I thought it'd be kind of cool to create a sort of a dangle. I also have a button. So I just kind of move things around and play with them and see, what do I like where? What makes sense to me? What helps tell this story? What takes away from this story? And I'm kind of feeling like this flower takes away from the story. So I'm going to remove that. Sometimes you just have to leave things in place for a minute or two while you make up your mind if you like it or not. So I'm going to add a little piece of foam tape underneath my bottle cap. I'm actually probably going to do 2. And I know this is not my typical tutorial, but y'all had asked me, you know, y'all had said you struggled with collage style cards. So I thought, well, let's make one together so you can kind of see my thought process. So I want this to touch. Again, see, elements touching. To me, that's really important. I find it very disturbing when you have a whole bunch of elements together and then all of a sudden there's something random thrown up in a corner where there's nothing there. All right, I like these postage stamps like this. So I'm going to put a little glue here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of foam tape here. But see, we're still staying inside this triangle. I hope this is making sense to y'all. Sometimes this is a hard thing. When you start sharing process, it's a hard thing to for people to connect to. Now I have this clip that I'm going to add here. That's going to hold our card close. I'm just going to put that there to remind me that that spot needs to be kept as it is. All right, so I found this black and white paper clip, which I think is really cute. And I've got this scrap of designer paper. I'm just going to cut a fishtail banner on each end. I'm going to fold it diagonally. And I'm going to run this let me see, how do I want this to be? Let me put my paper clip on and then I'll know. All right. I think I want my paper clip to go right up there. I'm going to take my paper and run it through like that. All right. And I'm going to put a little dot of glue to hold that. All right, I'm liking that. That looks pretty good to me. And then I've got these are stones actually that I had bought back when I was doing menus for BMW. And they kind of, the shape of them makes me think of the honeycomb. So I thought maybe I would scatter a few of those around, but I'm not sure. All right, I think I know what I want to do up here. All right, so I've tied a bow with burlap string, and then I took one of these vintage pins and put it around there. Now I've got some jump rings, and we're just going to create a dangle charm. All right. So I use my pliers because otherwise you'll wreck your nails. And this first one is just going to go through the bottom of the dangle charm. And now I'm just going to let you watch me as I do this. So I'm just kind of arranging these the way I want them to go. There we go. And then I've got one of these little yellow flowers left that can go on top of our bow. And once the glue has set, just come in and open this up a little bit, adjust the loops. There you go. It's a little dangle charm. Okay, the other thing, we put these away. If you spill these, you spend quite a bit of time picking them up. All right. So here's another fun thing. I'm going to fill in some of these honeycomb spaces, just sort of randomly, with my glue. And go into your spice cabinet and find your mustard seeds. And these kind of look like pollen. It adds a little texture, a little interest. And then when you shake this out, I'm going to let them just set there until they set up, and then I'll come in and I'll dump them out into a funnel tray and get them back into the bottle. And it does make a little bit of a mess, but to me it's worth it. I think they look really neat. I love what they add. I found one more little flower, and I think I'll put it up here on my... Just going to leave that there and think about it. And I've got one last of these lemon bees. I just love these from Renee Bouquets. And let's see. Yes, let's have it flying into the hive. Just like this. I like that a lot. That looks really good. And sometimes I put little tabs underneath the wings to lift them, but I think that's good for now. And there's our dangle. Yes. So I'm going to take my foam tape one more time. Got this little copper tag. I think I got this at Butterbee Scraps. And just want to cluster that in. I glued the little tiny key. That's something my husband bought me. He'll bring me home little treats. He's real sweet that way. And I think I don't want to use these. I think those are not necessary. I think that's done. That looks really good to me. It's just as important to know when you're done. I might just tie a little wee burlap bow to go underneath that flower, and then that kind of completes the card, I think. So I tied this little bow with burlap string. I'm going to pull the tails back, the loops back, and put the glue on the knot. And I think I want it going that way. And then my little flower right on top of it. All right, guys, that finishes the card. So let me put my tag back in. So just remember, if you make this base, give yourself a 1/4 of an inch. Even if you only do a 1/4 of an inch over here, then you won't have to use, I have to use this clip to hold everything in place, because otherwise it just doesn't work. But there we go. There's a little collage card. I hope you learned some things. Creating a triangle, having your elements touch, keeping things cohesive, you know, layering things so that they're gathered together and creating sort of a little story. Now we know what time it is, and this honeybee is headed home back to the hive. So that's it for this Throwback Thursday. I hope I shared some tips about making collage cards that you can use. I would love to hear your comments, and y'all go get your craft on. Bye.